A leathered covered book. Not much to it. Has a cover, binding, some pages inside of it to take notes or jot down ideas. Yet a book like this may hold a whole different meaning for a witch. Almost every witch carries with them some kind of journal or what is commonly known as a book of shadows or book of spells. Rarely are these books shared with anyone or passed on to others after a witch's death. Books of this sort are often burned after a witch's passing to forever hide the secrets within from those who may want to access the spell book. For those witches who are highly secretive and wish to have a fail-safe method to keeping their books away from prying eyes, they can and often do place security in the way of curses to keep the curious away. These curses often appear as a warning on the first page of the book and may state something to the nature of the consequences of a person reading beyond the first page. For those who do not heed the warning, the outcome could be fatal. So, rule of thumb, if you're walking down the road and so happen to come upon a book of shadows, wait a spell to see if the witch returns for it. If not, then do her a favor and yourself and burn it so it does no harm. On that cheery note, and later in this episode, we're going to talk to an 8th generation witch with a lineage that can be traced back to Milan in northern Italy. But first, let's talk a little bit about California, how it started, and a famous witch who still captivates those who visit her upstate mansion. Welcome to a series of Witches, California. Now let's start our journey. California is an interesting state. It sought and was granted statehood on September 9, 1850 as a free non-slavery state. It was the 31st state in the Union. The first established city in California was in 1769 and founded by Father Junipero Sierra. The name of the city was San Diego. The original town of San Diego is still standing. It's called Old Town San Diego, and where you can find one of the most haunted homes in the state, Whaley's House. A few other well-known cities that followed were Los Angeles in 1850, and it houses some of the legendary haunts such as the Hollywood's Roosevelt Hotel, where Marilyn Monroe still occupies Suite 1200, and the notorious Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. The Cecil Hotel has a very violent history and is given the name the Suicide Hotel because of the vast number of abnormal suicides that have occurred there. It was also the temporary residence of the Night Stalker Richard Ramirez and Jack Unterweger, the Australian serial killer. The hotel is rumored to be very haunted and claimed to be possessed by a demon called a Realm Walker by Los Angeles secular exorcist R.H. Stavis. The Cecil and the Stay at Main are no longer operating. Their doors were closed in 2017. The property was listed as a historical site by the City of Los Angeles and sold to developers on a 99-year lease with the idea to reimagine the property and hotel. The Cecil will reopen as a high-class hotel and condo residence in the winter of 2021. Now, downtown Los Angeles is going through a major facelift. You'll see old buildings being bought by developers with very deep pockets, and these beautiful high-rise glass condo buildings are taking their place. You'll see many 2- and 3-bedroom condos with prices that are only afforded by the rich. Now, downtown San Diego, California went through a similar reimagining. There was a time 50 years ago where you just could not walk downtown at night without the danger of being mugged, raped, shot, or worse. That has all changed now for downtown San Diego, and the place where there was once misery, there now exists rows and rows of $1 million condos, penthouses, eateries, and artist exhibits. Now you see families living in downtown, you see them gathering, you'll see weddings, and a lot more of this is common. Perhaps 50 years from now, downtown Los Angeles will experience the same changes that San Diego did, and whatever evil occupies the land where the Cecil Hotel was built on will grow hungry from the lack of misery and despair. Perhaps this evil will move on to another city in another part of the world, and at that time, just maybe, the Cecil will find peace. Witches have been a staple of American lore and reality since its inception. Some are well known, while others are not. Yet the witch we're going to be talking about today is known from coast to coast. Her mansion is considered a tourist attraction, and hundreds of patrons have walked the halls of her humble home. There's some controversy on whether or not this person was just crazy or a true witch. Yet in 1862, anyone that was considered different was always labeled crazy before anything else. Nestled in the city of San Jose at 535 South Winchester Boulevard is the Winchester House. Some call it the Winchester Mystery House, but to show respect to Mrs. Winchester, we'll refer to it as the Winchester Home. There are some that claim that Mrs. Winchester went crazy after her husband's death, but what I'm going to share with you will make you think twice about that. I personally think Mrs. Winchester was a true witch. Sarah Lockwood Winchester was born in 1839 in New Haven, Connecticut, and she was born to Sarah Burns and Leonard Purdy. On September 30th, 1862, Sarah married a New Haven resident, William Wirt Winchester, whom she had known throughout her childhood. Her father-in-law, Oliver, was a co-owner of the Winchester Davis shirt manufactory, and William was being groomed to take over the company. Yet Oliver had another passion, and his interest led him into the firearms business. He took control of the Volcanic Arms Company and later established the Winchester Repeating Arms Company in 1866. His son William sold his interest in the shirt company and became secretary of Winchester Repeating Arms Company. The family business quickly became successful and wealth flowed through its Winchester Model 1873 rifle. It was known as a gun that won the West. The company sold more than 700,000 rifles from 1873 to 1916. The rifle was used by famous marksmen and women such as Wild West, Buffalo Bill Cody, and Annie Oakley. And President Theodore Roosevelt also probably owned a Winchester. In June of 1866, a daughter was born to the Winchesters. They named her Annie, and although they did all they could, just 6 weeks later, a condition that affects the body's ability to process calories took their child from them. She died from malnutrition and was buried in the family's New Haven, Connecticut plot. In March of 1881, William Wirt Winchester passed away from tuberculosis. Sarah became the heir of the estate, totaling $20 million, and also held a 50% holding in the Winchester Repeating Arms Company. At the time, it made her one of the wealthiest women in the world. In 1886, Sarah purchased 40 acres of land that included a cottage in San Jose, California, where she could be close to her extended family. She spent the next 20 years building onto the cottage that soon became a 160-room mansion covering over 24,000 square feet. Sarah Winchester died of heart failure in her bed in 1922 and was buried next to her husband and infant child in Evergreen Cemetery, New Haven, Connecticut. Before dying, she left a will written in 13 sections, which she signed 13 times. The belongings in the house were to be left to her niece. According to the current owners of the house, it took movers 8 truckloads a day for 6.5 weeks to empty the entire house of furniture. Sadly, the house was quickly auctioned off to the public, and the first tourists were able to walk through the home just 5 months after the death of Sarah Winchester. Now let's take a look at Sarah's life and explore her magical side. Based on my research, there's enough evidence to show that she had special gifts that no one could understand in those times. Those special gifts allowed her to talk to spirits, receive guidance from them, and allowed her to conduct sessions of automatic writing and readings while in the presence of the spirits. Along with many of the rooms in her home, Sarah had a special room built at the end of a maze that only Sarah could navigate and find. She called this the Blue Room. It was a windowless room that was reserved for her seance work. Within this room, she kept a cabinet for spirit materialization and a writing table with supplies to conduct her automatic writing. She would often use a planchette as she worked into the night, speaking and enjoying the company of her spirit guides. It was every day at midnight where Sarah would change into a special robe and retire to the Blue Room. She would start by summoning the spirits through the tolling of bells. For 2 hours, she would visit with the spirits until the bells would toll again, ending her visits. Sarah never entertained anyone from the outside, but would often entertain her spirit friends. She would set tableware for 12 and one extra for herself, numbering 13. She would play music and serve them offerings of gourmet meals from the best chefs in the world. Sarah was obsessed with number 13, which had everything to do with her communication with her spirit guides. Now, as you can see, Sarah was not too much different from some of the witches of modern day times. Perhaps Sarah was just misunderstood and lacked the guidance and community of others that could understand her and help her grow in her gifts. Unfortunately, all Sarah met were those who did not condone her lifestyle or thought her as crazy. Sarah was a woman who was truly remarkable in her time, and she should be remembered and respected. From Northern California, the breadbasket of our state and most of the nation, comes an 8th generation witch with some amazing healing gifts. It's time to meet Crystal Ravenwolf, our modern day California witch. You are currently residing in California, and what area are you in?
I'm from the heart of California, from the South Valley, the Central Valley. It's called Hanford. It's a really small town in between Bakersfield and Fresno. And we're known for dairy and agriculture. We feed the nation here. So I don't live coastal like a lot of people think that you need to when you're from California. I live right smack dab in the center of it.
Great. How long have you been there?
I have been here for, over 30 years now. I moved here. I was born in Los Angeles, and I moved here in the 90s because I wanted my kids to have roots. I didn't have roots growing up because we traveled a lot. My mom raised me when I was young in hippie compound, and so we traveled a lot. And I wanted my kids to have somewhere safe that they could call home, somewhere that once they, grew their wings and flew away, that they could do so successfully, knowing that they were from a really strong foundational area that they could come home to anytime they wanted to.
Very cool. So you mentioned to me that you are an 8th generation witch. That's impressive.
It's just stems from, the women in my family being practitioners for generations. It really, when people look at generational witchcraft, it's kind of funny because they think that we're born with these magical powers, and we're really not. We're just like anybody else. It's just that the women in our family has passed down family knowledge through the generations. So I had a really good foundation to start with, but I'm a knowledge junkie, and so I have spent my lifetime learning about other traditions and other pantheons and other the more new age knowledge that's out there today. When the internet opened up, there was a plethora of knowledge out there that we could look for and research, and I've spent years doing that.
Very cool. Do you know, or do you remember who the first generation of witches in your family is?
We do. It was on my mom's side, and it would be my great grandma, and it was from Milan, Italy. And so they practiced there. It was a complete different form of what it evolved into in my family, because my mom's from Memphis, Tennessee originally, and her mom was a first immigrant over. So a lot of what we practice now has more to do with that Southern folklore magic, just that, country good philosophy and magic that the women practiced, whether they even realized it or not, for generations.
So you talked a little bit about, more of the, kind of folk magic and, just generational magic, right, that you've gained over the past. Can you talk about a little bit more about that? What is it?
Absolutely. Pretty much everything that I do has a magical element to it, I would say. I don't really call it spell work. What I do isn't ritualistic. A lot of the new age or modern practices has a lot of ritual involved in it. Mine really doesn't. I grab a few things out of my kitchen and, I work a lot more with spirits, I think, than a lot of the new age practitioners do. I have one spirit in particular who is an ancestor that I work with quite often whenever I'm doing any kind of conjure. And I have a spirit in my home that protects my home. I have spirits, that protect me personally. I have spirits that I work with when I'm doing conjure. I really work hand in hand with my ancestors, which probably stems from the fact that I'm also Native American. And so I've incorporated that a lot in my spiritual aspect, not necessarily my practice. And that's really important to me because although spirituality and witchcraft go hand in hand together, they are not the same thing, because there are witches in every single religion and spiritual path known to man throughout time. But our spiritual path is what we believe in. Our witchcraft is what we do. It's our craft. So although they walk hand in hand together, they are not the same.
Yeah, I've never heard it explained that way, where you separate your spiritualism from your craft.
Very, very much so. I mean, I have a very strong spiritual path that is paganistic in nature, meaning that I walk with Mother Earth. But it's not the same thing as my craft. My craft is what I do. It's my practice.
Your craft is very interesting because you work with a lot of people that have heavy trauma.
I believe that being a witch has more meaning to it than just living a magical life. It means being a voice for those whose voices are held hostage. It means healing those who need to be healed. It means standing up against oppression and standing up against inequality and living without fear, which means I need to really be a voice for those that don't have one. And part of that is giving of myself. So I spend a lot of time with women who are survivors, whether through sexual assault or domestic violence, and sometimes even child abuse. And I work with them in many different ways, sometimes as spiritual counselor, sometimes through soul retrieval, which is a practice that I do where I collect the lost soul pieces of people. Let me tell you a little bit, or backtrack a little bit. With soul retrieval, every time we go through something traumatic in life, we lose a piece of our spirit in that moment. That's how we deal with it. And so once we are older, we have all these missing pieces in our spirit. And so through soul retrieval, I go and collect all of their missing soul pieces. It doesn't take away the trauma, but it's so much easier to walk through trauma when you are whole than it is when you're missing soul pieces. So I do a lot of different things where I volunteer with the women in the abuse centers. And it's that is what makes my life worth living. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I like that a lot. So that's basically what drives you through life, then, being able to help people?
It really does. Well, a lot of things drive me. I'm a complete Renaissance woman, and I 100% believe that even though I don't have control of other things other than myself, of course, I do believe that I can live life on my own terms. And so I wake up every day ambitious and ready to just go and conquer the world and do whatever it is that I dream of doing. I believe I can do it. It's all about manifesting, the ideals of who your authentic self is. And I live every single day in my own skin, completely comfortable. So, and it took me a long time to get here. So I can say that now with a smile.
You do a lot of different things. You are a very, very strong tarot card reader. You do your healing, and you have a couple other things going on too.
I do. Well, me and my witchy sister from another mister, Pleasant Gaiman, we started Divination Nation about 7 years ago. And it's a community where we bring people together and we share knowledge, we share parts of our path, we share humor, because in 2020 we needed a lot of humor to get through it. And we're also working on a book called Walking the Tarot Path, which should be out soon. We are so close to finishing it and having it ready for publish that I can't wait for it to come out because it will be the fruition of a dream of mine, which is to be a published author. So yeah, we run Divination Nation. It's been really fun connecting with other people of like minds. And I also sell paparazzi. So it's, for me, it's whatever you need to do to be able to live life comfortable in your own skin, do it. And I have great hustle. So usually mine has to do with me hustling.
So if somebody wanted to find you to get help with trauma, or they wanted a reading, where would they go?
You can go to my website, which is crystalravenwolf.com. You can find me on Facebook. Just search Crystal Ravenwolf. I'll pop up all over the place. But I do have my own page, which is Conjurer Crystal Ravenwolf. You can like me there, and that way you'll be able to keep up on all my shenanigans. You can visit me on Twitter at _dancing_raven, or you can visit my Instagram at Crystal Ravenwolf. I'm not somebody who really likes to have that 9 to 5. I love the hustle of getting up every day and doing my own businesses, so to speak. But when it comes to the bread and butter of what I do, that's my tarot reading. I do readings for people all over the world, Monday through Sunday. And 7 days a week. I have a very strong clientele, so I'm busy all the time. So my readings are by appointment only.
You just met Crystal Ravenwolf, our California modern-day witch. It might surprise you, but everyone has the ability to heal others. Yet less than 1% are able to use their gifts. Healing takes a lot of work. You have to start with yourself and work through the shadows and trauma in your own life before you can start to work on others. It is a very hard journey that takes working with spirits and goddesses who may expose things you're not ready to face. Many do not complete this journey or reach a level where they're able to heal others. Yet the work that is started on the self is well worth the journey, even if you never reach the level of being a healer. This has been my series of witches.